You're just making that up, aren't you?
Grove of trees are. He said there's depressions that have like small lakes in them now. And he said that was which doesn't make sense now. But anyway,
We're about to take a cruise, and oh look who the captain is. I've suddenly become more nervous, as a matter of fact.
They saw me coming, they disconnected the horn.
so right now we are on the Glacier Viewpoint, I think it's called, or something like that, on the Highline Trail, Skyline Trail. Can't keep up with all these trail names.
Nobody lives in boring Oregon anymore. You know why? They all moved. Because it was boring. So our plans about going all the way up to the top right here, not going to happen. We left Pasco, Washington with our destination being Kelso, Washington. We encountered smoke from the Canadian fires most of the way, even through the Columbia Gorge. But when we got to Kelso, it seemed to clear out. This would be our location to see things like Mount St Helens, Multnomah Falls, Mount Rainier, Mount Hood, and the town made famous by the Goonies, Astoria, Oregon.
Mount St Helens, a Washington state volcano, has been dormant for over a century, but today it erupted with smoke and ash after a week of earthquakes which rattled the area. The volcano oozed lava and belched an explosion that was heard up to 45 miles away.
Mount St Helens finally blew this morning with a boom heard 150 miles away. The immense eruption came following an earthquake measuring 5 on the Richter scale. Cars parked 12 miles away on a logging road were overturned by the tremendous impact of the blast.
There are major worldwide events that happened when we were young that are etched in our minds forever. We talked about this when we were in Lake Placid in 2021 and saw the site of the U.S. Olympic hockey victory over Russia in the 1980 Winter Olympics. Also in 1980 was the eruption of Mount St. Helens. And having a chance to go visit the site was a bucket list item for me. This is very, very cool here, kind of surreal. So I don't know if you can kind of see it in the background. Show you a picture, zoomed in a little bit. So that's Mount St. Helens.
I can find it.
Your way.
No, I'm looking.
Yeah, that's where the blast was.
Here.
Anyway, so this is so in the background we're at the Forest Viewpoint Center and owned by Weyerhaeuser, but it is this you can see a good view of Mount St. Helens, but right below us is the Toutle Valley, and so you kind of see down there, yeah, Toutle River, and I guess there's now elk down there. We haven't seen them, but if you can kind of see, and it's kind of, I know it's going to be hard to see it unless you were here, is so the outflow, the blast, and the outflow of, and it wasn't molten lava, but it was just rock and mud and debris from Mount St. Helens came down. It actually occupied 250 feet high
in a landslide
in this valley, and so we are about 6 miles or 8 miles from the mountain, and it went through here down 2 miles further away from the mountain down into the valley. So just amazing. They came back in and they had to, put dirt and sediment and stuff on top of it, then they planted, and then that brought some of the elk back.
What was really interesting, because there was a lovely volunteer who was retired from Weyerhaeuser. He said he was the only geologist at the time that happened.
Yeah.
That worked for them. But anyway, he was obviously full of information. He said that every one of these trees was planted by hand.
In the blowdown, yeah, they had to clear it out, and they basically had to hand plant these trees.
And if you look around, he said it took 7 years to replant, which to me, yeah, I don't know how they did it in 7 years.
A lot of people, but you probably won't be able to see this either. But if you look down here, you'll see some rock, big rock in the valley.
There was a name for it.
Yeah,
So basically those were, chunks.
those are chunks of stone that were thrown from the volcano all the way 6 miles that way, and so as it flowed down.
Another interesting fact, this may have been before you walked up, but if you notice where the grove of trees are, he said there's depressions that have like small lakes in them now, and he said that was which I don't know, doesn't make sense now, but anyway, he said those were pieces of ice that came down and melted and created the depressions, which are now lakes. But
well, let's see if we can get a little bit higher up toward the mountain and go from there. See if we can get a better view. We're up at the elk viewing area, and then we got a little bit closer. You can kind of see in the background, just very impressive. Down below is what they call Silver Lake, and that was basically inundated, and actually all of the water came out of the lake when the eruption happened, and it sprayed the water up 800 feet onto the corresponding hillside, and the water has now filled back in, but it's now 200 feet higher than it used to be, and so because it goes up against that mountainside, it's a wider but shallower lake than it was before. That's called Silver Lake. So we come to Mount St Helens, the point of one of the worst volcanic blasts in Earth's history that we know of anyway. And she's busy studying about bumblebees. Well, it's not, so most of the areas in Mount St Helens are not extremely pet friendly.
within the national zone.
Yeah, with the national. I mean, this is a pet area, but you can't really see anything yet. And obviously you can't go inside. But the good news is that it's not, we can do this in half a day with the Meka in the rig. And it's really not that far. So we're going to come back up, so hopefully we'll get you. Maybe it's a little clearer day. It's not bad. It's just there's a little bit of, clouds around. So we're going to go back up and do all these visitor centers and get very interpretive with you.
It's really interesting, all of the things you learn at places like this, because the only thing that seemed to survive were animals and insects that burrowed under the ground or in dead plants maybe, or something like that. And I guess they survived the heat and then
the wind.
And the wind, and eventually dug themselves out. And then with time, obviously everything's regenerated. But these ferns evidently are something that came back pretty quick, because again the roots survived and then they just reflourished.
Yeah, this field right in front of us, and I'll show you here in a second, is probably a good indication that you'll just see these stumps that were completely blown down. So trees, and I assume those were remnants of the blast. And then I don't know. Well, but you can see the valley down below and how it's starting to replenish. So this is really interesting because we're standing on a little trail that goes down, I think down towards the lake, but where we are, this was basically just completely covered with forest before the volcanic eruption. But as you can see here, it's it's starting to come back. Things slowly starting to come back. We'll show you some video of the valley down to what it looks like now. But picture this. This was, all forest just before the eruption. And they say the winds were 670 miles an hour that blew everything down in its path. And so you kind of see the volcano in the background. It's a little windy today, so you're getting a lot of stir up of the ash that's still up on top of the mountain. And we'll show you the valley, like I said. But just amazing that this is all forest, but it is starting to come back, and then eventually it'll come back to be a full forest again.
Visiting Mount St Helens is another reminder of the incredible force of nature. Before the eruption, Mount St Helens stood at over 9,600 feet, but after the eruption, it now stands at 8,300 feet. Over 230 miles of forest was destroyed within only minutes. The wind speed was clocked as high as 570 miles an hour. Thousands of animals perished in the eruption, and only the ones underground survived. It took many years, but as you see, life has returned to normal. Soon after Mount St Helens, we visited Multnomah Falls, the tallest falls in the state of Oregon and the most visited natural recreation site in the Pacific Northwest.
So returning to a site of a place that I've not been since even before I knew her. I've known her for a long time. I came to Portland on business probably in like 1983 or 84 it was, and we had a customer out here. He was in downtown Portland, and he took me to Multnomah Falls and Bonneville Dam, and we are back at Multnomah Falls, and it is what you can probably see as a very typical Pacific Northwest day. We got a little bit of rain on the way in, so let's see how it is up on the falls. Right, that's confusing because that's switchback 9 of 11, and now we're actually heading down. And you know what that means? It means that when we get down to the top of the falls, sounds like an oxymoron, that we're going to have to walk back up when our legs are tired. Oh, hang on a second. Hang on, we're making progress. So that was a pretty short switchback, so it looks like the last two go down. Which is a relief for now, but it's going to be, we're going to wish it was still up on the way back. So we get the hard part over with. But anyway, heading down to the top of the falls. That sounds, like I said, like an oxymoron, but let's check it out. Well, I did not do that in 1980. Whatever it was, 83. I just pretty much stayed on the bridge. So this is
a pretty good sweat going on.
Yeah, it's a pretty good vantage point here. So I think it's 542 feet up from the bottom. So that was a pretty good hike.
It's like a mile and a quarter.
Mile and a quarter, 540 some odd feet, and probably a couple ounces of sweat. But yeah, definitely worth it. And thank goodness the rain sort of stopped because that trail can get a little slippery. But yeah, top of Multnomah Falls. Very awesome.
It's beautiful too. Even Meka hiked it.
Meka wanted to go swimming, but she didn't know the drop to the bottom was pretty ostentatious. So, all right, let's go head our way back. I know what you're thinking, that you've seen switchback 9 of 11 so far earlier in the video, and you did. Good news is now we're going down.
Going to get us a surprise. I'll have to show you when he gets through. Oh, yummy.
That could be the second largest ice cream cone I've ever seen. Actually, I can't remember the first largest ice cream cone I've ever seen, but I'm sure there's probably one. This is pretty big.
That's perfect because you get chocolate and I get vanilla.
Okay, we're getting both. I mean,
it was time to head back to our campsite in Kelso. But join us next time as we explore Mount Rainier, Mount Hood, and we meet up with our YouTube friends Jerry and Teresa from Happy Place Diaries in Astoria, Oregon.